Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Now, before we get into today's video, just want to ask you to check that you're still subscribed. YouTube has done that thing again, where it goes around and randomly unsubscribes people against their will and without their knowledge. So do please check that you are still subscribed, and if you have been unsubscribed, please resubscribe. And if you're not subscribed, well, I suggest now would be an excellent time to subscribe. Thank you very much. Now, the story. We have got, in the form of Nicola Sturgeon, a woman who is desperate to cling on to whatever fame and power she has. She ran Scotland for so long, and during her reign of error, Scotland went from low to high. It became a paradise on earth. It became the most wonderful country to live in. If you don't mind the fact that the roads were falling apart, the communication system was rubbish, the energy supply was spotty, the NHS fell apart, the schools all failed so badly they plummeted down the league tables, where hate crime continued to go, where anti-English sentiment turned into anti-English hatred, where you couldn't just disagree with someone, you had to despise and hate them, that sort of thing. Not to mention all the debacles, all the legal failures, the gender reform bill that really ultimately caused her to go, the sucking up to the Greens, which proved so disastrous. In fact, it's been an absolutely awful shit show for 18 years, but mostly under her helm. It's not improved much since, to be fair. But this woman is desperate to remain sort of relevant. So although she's no longer leader, she remains an MSP, although she barely, if rarely, turns up, rarely, if barely, speaks, and in fact does not represent her constituents at all if she can avoid it. Doesn't even want to meet them if she can avoid it. It's all the fun and palaver of power without actually wielding any. Nice. And we know that when she left office, she was really keen to go and get an important job somewhere else. NATO, the UN, the EU. She didn't care where, so long as she could continue to be important, to be treated as one of the elite, to maintain her grip wherever and however tenuously on some form of power. Alas, it was not to be. People looked at her and they despise her. She's not liked. And indeed, her chances of ever getting anything now are remote, to say the least. She's seen as maybe a crook, maybe a murderer. Who knows? There's two different investigations going on. Branchform over crookery and Coper over her alleged murder. Not a good place to be, is it, if your name is Nicola Sturgeon? However, polling guru Professor Sir John Curtis says that Nicola Sturgeon could end up with a little bit of power from being outside of politics. It seems to be the only way. She's unlikely to actually win her seat. She has yet to say whether she's going to stand again or not. We know that Useless has quit. He's saying he's not standing anymore, only because he knows he's definitely going to lose. And he doesn't want the ignominy of being voted out of office. So he's going to take the very brave stance and run away, which is exactly the same as giving up, but it's done with dignity. Sturgeon, not so much. She still believes that she'll be voted in. She's quite delusional, really, isn't she? Hey-ho. But there is apparently, according to Curtis, a future for her. It seems the SNP are going to set up a specialist unit to fight for independence. But this time, slightly differently. They're going for an independent republic. So whereas before it was an independent Scotland, but the king was still the head of state, now they want an independent Scotland with no ties at all to the royal family. And so they're setting up really a more extreme form of their extremism in this sort of very, very closely held, secretive organisation that seeks to push for independence. There have been nearly 100 years of SNP and they've never got independence for a reason. The Scottish people aren't stupid enough to actually want it. But hey-ho. And so Sturgeon is likely to lead this. Now, this will be an independent group outside. It will consist of MPs, MSPs, councillors. It will consist of, academics, of philosophers, of thinkers, as well as business people and anyone else who wants to join, basically. But they've all got to have that super uber extremism mindset where everything British is evil and only things that are Scottish are good. Because otherwise you're a traitor to your cause. Nationalism. Oh, it's a joy, isn't it? But there we go. So Nicola Sturgeon apparently could be key to this as a leader of this group. Not an MSP, but paid for, probably by public subscription, who knows? Or could be paid for by the taxpayer. Who knows? Depends. But I'm sure somebody will somehow manage to speak to someone to make sure funds are available to pay Nicola every penny she's worth, which in my opinion is very little. I do consider her to be crook. I do consider that she is involved, maybe, probably, allegedly, in the branch form problems. And I most definitely believe her and Freeman colluded with others, allegedly, cover myself, in Operation Copa's chief investigation point, which is the corporate murder of tens of thousands of Scots. Allegedly, cover myself again. There we go. But anyway, on an interview yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday, John Curtis said that Sturgeon could be, in his words, valuable to the independence cause. Well, she's been there for, 123 years or something. She hasn't proved valuable yet. And in fact, I would suggest, far from being valuable, she'd be a liability. How can she possibly lead anything while she's got these 2 investigations hanging over her head? You know? It would just always be brought up. You cannot possibly have anyone as toxic as Nicola Sturgeon anywhere near anything, ever. The moment the going gets tough, someone only has to bring up branch form or Operation Copa. So tell me, Nicola, in the middle of an interview, are you a thief? Have you murdered? You know, how are those investigations coming along? And then she'll sit there and she'll put a grim little face on, you know, take her teeth out. Gets all gummy, doesn't she, in the eyes, flinty. She really doesn't like it. But the trouble is, who else have the SNP got? There's no one else with charisma. There's no one else with charm. She hasn't got these things either. But she does at least have political nous. But they've got no one else. No one else has a clue. That's the trouble. They're so bereft of talent or ability or intelligence. And the only one who I consider would be in any way a half-decent leader is one that the party will never, ever accept. They really have got a problem. The solution, though, is not more Nicola Sturgeon. Thanks very much. Bye.